In this video, I want to talk about how you can have a long-term fact retriever. So let's go back to the code that we saw that did the fact retriever. Just let me show you where this is again on the disk. So within the loan processing business rules, earlier we saw this fact retriever here, and we made a slight change to it. So let's open that back up. Now, notice exactly what this is doing here. We didn't talk about before. There is an object here called FaxHandleIn. And so when it calls us, it's passing that. And it basically says if the fax_in is null, then let's assert these database connections. Otherwise, let's just pass back whatever you passed us. So the old values should still be there. So what we want to do is to use this a little more to our advantage. Instead of passing back just the DC1 or whatever here, that doesn't make as much sense as what we're going to show you now. So what we want to do is pass back a date time. So here we'll send back system.datetime. Then we want to set the current time. So this current time will be basically the time we retrieve this data from the database. So now, if the FaxHandleIn here is null, that means we don't have a time there yet. So let's just add some more notes and comments here. So facts have not been retrieved yet, therefore retrieve them now. So now we're going to actually take this code out and make it a little more reusable. So right here we're going to have a private retrieve fax. And we're going to pass rule set info. Actually, it's the same parameters we have up here. So let's just copy these parameters. And all this retrieval logic will be now moved including that to this retrieve section. So now I have it in two places. So I need to delete it right here. And now right here I want to call the retrieve routine. So I'm going to say retrieve fax, and then we're going to pass basically the same parameters we received up here. So rule set info, comma, and then engine, which is this, and FaxHandleIn, which is that. And by the way, the idea for this I'm getting is actually out of the book Professional BizTalk Server by Darren Jefford, Kevin Smith, and Ewan Fairweather. So just slight different application of the ideas they had there. So now we're going to call the fact retriever. And when we do that, we have to have one more thing here. We need to have FaxHandleOut equals. So when we call this routine, it's going to pass back this object back to here, and then we're going to return that object back to whoever called us, which is the business rule engine. So facts have never been retrieved, so go get them. Now if they have been retrieved before, we could just simply return the old data, and it saves us time basically. But let's suppose we want to be a little bit fancier, and we want our data to be refreshed every, say, 4 hours. So what we're going to do here in this else routine, we're going to write a little bit more logic. And we're going to start with a date time. And we'll call it last time fax retrieved. And that's going to be equal to, we're going to cast this variable into a date time. So we know that every time we return an object, it's going to be a date-time object. So when fact handle comes in, we cast it to a date-time, which is this. Okay, now we want to do a time span on this. So we're going to say time span TS equals, we're going to take the current time and we're going to subtract from that the last time the facts were retrieved. Now if that was more than 4 hours, I could put the 4 here, but just to make it better documented, I'm going to put, could make it a constant or something, or you could get it from a config file. So I'm going to have an integer number of hours to refresh data is 4. So if the number of hours is greater than that, then what I want to do is basically call the retrieve facts again. So I'm going to copy these 2 lines here and put inside this if statement. Instead of saying facts have not been retrieved yet, facts have not been retrieved for 4 hours. Therefore, retrieve them again. So about the only thing I would do for this, I think I would take this variable and I'd move it way to the top. So when somebody opens it, I could even make it probably a public class variable here. Let's do a build. I have 2 errors. One is I always forget and put parentheses on the now. And the other one, it says this does not exist in the current context. Oh, so right here, we could just really call that object and say return facts handle out. And build that again. Okay, so that's compiled. I'm not going to actually run this because I don't want to wait 4 hours. So to test this, probably what you would do here is test it for whatever, 5 minutes or something. And it will be a little bit of tedious to test, so I'm actually not going to test it. So this is how you write a fact retriever that basically keeps the number of facts long term, and instead of keeping them forever, which is the way this routine was written before, the routine now checks and refreshes them every 4 hours. So every time this routine is called, it says, oh, well, I've got a date here. If I don't have a date, I go get the facts. If I have a date, let's check the date and let's see if it's been 4 hours. If it's not been 4 hours, let's just return the same old stuff. In other words, we don't have to reassert anything. It's really the asserts again that makes the magic happen. And so we return just the date always, and then the date will tell us how long it's been since the last time we retrieved these facts. And that concludes this video on how to write a long-term fact retriever where you control the time.